Marcelino, Chair of the Education Committee in the New York State Senate. We'd like to call this meeting to order of the Education Conference Committee. To introduce my colleagues from the Senate, they're joined by Senator Betty Little, Senator Michael Ranzenhofer, Senator James Stewart, Senator George Latimer, alternate Simca Felder, and the second alternate is Joe Adabo. Kathy?
Yes, thank you. First, I really am pleased that there are even people here, because now that these things are streamed online, we used to have a sellout, but now everyone's home watching it in their office or wherever. So I appreciate people who took the time to come, and want to thank Senator Marcelino for the wonderful working relationship that we have, and the support really throughout our legislature for education. So I'm very pleased to be here today for the 2016-2017 State Budget Conference Committee, and I just want to introduce our members. First and foremost, my good friend and colleague through all the years we've had these conference committees, Assemblywoman Vivian Cook from Queens. Also Assemblymember Barbara Lifton from Ithaca, and I always want to thank Barbara for her great expertise in education. Assemblyman Tom Abenanti, who's our libraries chair, and Assemblyman Walter Mosley is our alternate with Assemblywoman LaToya Joyner, and she'll be here in a minute. And we also have, of course, a very important member of our committee, our ranking minority member, Ed Ra from Long Island, and his alternate, Al Graff. And I guess we're going to announce our secretaries. The one for the Assembly is our Steve McCutcheon, and we thank him so much for all the work he's done to have our successful Regents hearings, and now another successful hearing today. I know you have someone too.
Yes. Okay. Our secretary will be Debbie Peck Kelleher from the Senate.
Hopefully we'll give them enough to write. They can take good notes. We usually do a little explanation of our priorities, and you can go first if you wish, and then all people will say a word.
We can do that. Why don't you take one?
Just quickly, everyone has the ability, obviously, to read these lengthy documents. Each house has a resolution that responds to the submission by the executive. I think it's important to note that the Assembly proposal, first and foremost, has a significant increase in foundation aid. We're looking at a $1.1 billion foundation add that focuses on the state's neediest districts so that we address issues of equity in education funding. But the Assembly also has a multi-year commitment to fully fund foundation aid, which would then go up the $3.3 billion that many of us feel is still owed by the campaign for fiscal equity and the lawsuit that occurred so many years ago. The Assembly also has funding for community schools, My Brother's Keeper. I know some of our colleagues may want to say a word, but that's a brief overview, and then we'll if anybody wants to say something, we'll do it that way. And I should also say the Assembly very strongly supports a 7-year renewal of an extension of mayoral control of the New York City school system, which has proven to be something that provided stability to our very large system, and I think under Carmen Freeney's leadership has done a very fine job. So,
Our one-house budget contains an overall school aid increase of about $1.655 billion year to year. That's a 7.15% increase, an increase of $750 million over the executive proposal for 2016-17 that provides for a total general support for public school allocation of $24.8 billion, which is a record level of funding for New York State children. Increases foundation aid by $880 million over the 2015-16 year, modifies the executive foundation aid and community schools proposal to repurpose $100 million in community school funding proposed by the executive into foundation aid. No district receives less than the executive proposal would have offered them. We fully fund $340.9 million in expense-based aids, provides for additional $27.4 million for grants and aid to charter schools, provides for an additional $10 million for library construction fund. We provide $5 million in additional library aid. We provide $4.6 million in non-public school aid, and we provide $4.1 million in additional funding for 4201 schools for the blind and the deaf. There's a whole litany of other things which I'm not going to go through them individually. It's the increase that we see here is a good one. We think we have a positive proposal moving forward for the schools. We are working hard. We're more than happy to sit down and talk. When we get our table numbers, we'll be able to do a lot more in detail But we have, our staffs are already working together to try to coalesce on those issues and those items that we can agree upon and we can get together on. So that's already happening, and we wish them forward. Just in the interest of total honesty, Kathy Nolan was a student of mine at Grover Cleveland High School way back in the day. So, but I just want you to know, there will be no favoritism played.
There's a lot of stories I could tell, but I'm not.
She could, too.
We could. I will say I know because of that, though, that Senator Marcelino has a great commitment to children and to schools. So, and that's what drives us. We actually, Grover Cleveland had 6,000 people in a building built for 2,500 when we were there. So anybody who thinks the city school system doesn't need a lot of support, and all our aging school systems need support, we'll tell you about what it was like for him to be the grown-up running the school, but for me to be in, that's what got me in politics, actually. We protested. Anyway, we won't go into those stories now. I do want to acknowledge we have a number of colleagues here, Assemblywoman Pam Hunter, Assemblywoman Alicia Hyman, Assemblywoman Ellen Jaffe, and Assemblyman Steve Otis, and there'll be some others. There's always a lot of interest, but I'd like to let my colleagues, if they want to say a word, and we'll start with Vivian if she wants to add it, and we'll just maybe alternate or go down or whatever we want to do.
I will be brief. My interest is in foundation aid, community schools, pre-K, my brother's keeper, homeless students, aid for homeless students, teachers training programs, the fiscal equity. I want the money that we put in the budget years ago. I'd like to have all that money brought back to the school system. Also, the 4201 schools. I'm interested in all of that and much more, but I am going to be brief. Thank you.
I might also add that one of the Senate priorities, and I believe it's also a priority of the Assembly, is to eliminate the GEA in the first year, in this year, not 2 years. The governor has a 2-year proposal for that. We believe it should go this year, and we're going to work very hard to do that, and we believe we can demonstrate the ability to do that to the governor's people.
You want to let
Betty?
say a word? And then we'll go back and forth a bit.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say that I'm really pleased to once again be part of this education conference committee, and very
Great.
I'm sorry. Once again, say that I'm very pleased to be part of this education conference committee as we work on funding our schools. Certainly, we have a lot of good ideas and good programs that have been put forward. And as Senator Marcelino said, I think that all of us agree on the GEA. I represent 48 school districts in my Senate district, and of varying sizes, but many of them have been fortunate enough to have the GEA eliminated last year, but at least half of them still have it, and it is something that we need to put to bed, certainly, and have that off the table. So I look forward to working with the committee and doing good things for the education of our children in New York State. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Lifton?
Thank you. I want to say I'm very grateful to the leadership of Assemblywoman Nolan, who's helped us get, I think, to a very strong education proposal here in the budget, especially the $1.1 billion in foundation aid. Many people are sort of under the idea that it mostly benefits downstate, but many of my upstate schools in my 2 counties are middle income and just below that, and low income schools who will benefit greatly from foundation aid, so that's very important to me. Also glad that we're going to have a 4-year phase-in of that foundation aid and fully meet the court decision. I'm also glad I argued for the full restoration of GEA. I'm very pleased to see that we're going to do that, the cuts that were imposed during the recession. And just in the brief time, also happy to see that we're putting some serious money into professional development money for the SCD to work on professional development. Thank you very much, Assemblywoman Nolan.
Thank you.
Senator Razanova.
Thank you, Chairman. This is my 6th year on the Education Joint Budget Conference Subcommittee, and for the previous 5 years, it was chaired by Senator Flanagan, who's now the Majority Leader, and I know that this is Chairman Marcelino's first year as the chair of this subcommittee, and I just want to say publicly that he has done an outstanding job in leading this subcommittee on a very, very important issue, and obviously his background as an educator is very, very helpful to all of us. The priorities that are important for me is to make sure that we are fully funding to the best as we can our blind and deaf schools. And I'm also very happy to see the increased aid for libraries and also the increased capital funding for libraries. But I think I would share the comments of many of my colleagues on the Senate side that we have been chipping away for the last 5 years, now into the 6th year, with the gap elimination adjustment, which has really been hurting our schools for a number of years. We've made some tremendous strides over the years, and I think we're now down to the home stretch. So I am very happy to see that in the Senate budget that we've made the commitment to this year finally take this off the table, fully fund the gap elimination adjustment portion of the budget, and I'm hopeful and confident that we can take care of that this year and put our schools back on par so that all the schools throughout the state will now have their GEA eliminated, and we can move on to other issues as well, especially as we get into next year. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Avenatti.
Works. First of all, I'd like to compliment Senator Marcelino as a teacher. He must have been an excellent teacher because he did a very good job with the chair of our committee.
You know, everybody's making me feel young. This is making me feel very young. Thank you.
This is making me feel very old.
He may sometimes regret how good a job he did because she's an excellent chair. First, I'd like to note that the Assembly budget recognizes the important role of libraries in our community. And I'm pleased to see that the Senate has done the same thing, and I'm hopeful that the final budget will maintain the appropriate level of funding that we're both looking at. Secondly, I'm pleased that the Assembly budget has addressed some of the concerns that were raised by parents, school boards, superintendents about the linkage between state aid increases and staff evaluation plan approvals. That's an artificial linkage. I know parents are very upset about it, and so are our superintendents and our school boards. They're struggling to try to get this done, but they don't think they can get it done in time for the current deadline. I know the Assembly is addressing that issue, and I'm hopeful we can address that in the final budget. And lastly, when we deal with students with special needs, I'm pleased to hear my Senate colleagues talk about that as well. I know in the Assembly budget we've recognized the need for additional assistance, and we've put some significant assistance in there for those schools that deal with our special needs students. And we've added some language in there to dedicate some funding that was otherwise undedicated. So I think the Assembly budget goes in the right direction, and I'm hopeful that we can resolve whatever differences we have with the Senate and continue to help our kids with special needs. Thank you.
Senator Jim Seward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too want to say how pleased I am to once again be serving on this Education Conference Committee. I can't think of a more important issue than education and providing a good quality education for the young people of our state. You know, in many of my communities, the school is really the center of the community, and a lot revolves around the school. And so not only are we talking about education, we're really talking about communities and helping to build strong, healthy communities as well. I'm very pleased that we are looking at the total elimination of the gap elimination adjustment this year. That's been a Senate priority for a number of years. This is the year we've got to get it done. You know, when this gap elimination adjustment was instituted back in 09-10 timeframe, I voted against that budget for a number of reasons, one of which was because it included this withholding of very much needed school aid for our districts. And I'm pleased that this is the year when we finally, hopefully, can see the end of this gap elimination adjustment, which has been a stranglehold on our local schools and local taxpayers as well. And then once we get rid of the GEA, then we can turn our attention to the foundation aid, and once again in truly enhancing educational opportunities around New York State. I too want to say how pleased I am. It appears that both houses are in agreement when it comes to libraries, an increase in the general aid to our libraries, as well as, for the first time in a number of years, an increase in the capital program for our libraries so that they will have a greater pool of money to enhance their facilities around the state. So I look forward to the deliberations of this conference committee. The end result, I expect, will be adequately funding our schools, protecting our local taxpayers, and a good bump up in aid to our libraries. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, thank you. Senator Mosley? And I do want to say, I want to thank you, Walter, for inviting me to a forum in Brooklyn last year where we talked about some of the My Brother's Keeper initiatives, and maybe something you want to speak about, but thank you again.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity. Senator Marcelino, thank you for your continued service. I don't take this for granted. I'm a young member, so I definitely I'm grateful for this opportunity to serve on the committee. Likewise, as a third-generation teacher, someone who grew up in the New York City public school system, the My Brother's Keeper initiative is critically important, and I want to thank the leadership of Dr. Lester Young and the Board of Regents, as well as Commissioner Elia, for this unanimous support of the recommendations provided by Dr. Young and his staff. So I want to applaud them, and I hope that as we continue these deliberations, that this continues to be a priority of all those who are present. Likewise, I want to just quickly touch upon our conference's continued support for universal pre-K programs, as well as our multi-year assistant programming for more full-time kindergarten, which is in our one house. So again, I want to thank the chair for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to deliberations.
Senator Latimer.
Thank you, Senator Marcelino. Thank you, Assemblywoman Nolan. On behalf of the Senate Democratic Conference, we share many of the priorities that you've heard referenced already by our colleagues in the other conferences. Full restoration of GEA, we agree, is necessary and essential for this budget. We also believe in a robust increase in foundation aid for those districts for which the GEA restoration will not be sufficient. We also support any additional resources that we can provide to our special act schools, the 853s, 4201s, and such. We also support the majorities in their emphasis on library funding, capital funding, and operational funding. And also we believe in a robust allocation of money for community schools. And we look forward to supporting a budget that has those priorities as part of it. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Assemblywoman.
Senator Ra?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I could almost just verbatim repeat what Senator Latimer just said, but basically just to make those points again on behalf of the Assembly minority. The GEA obviously has been a major focus, and we thank the leadership in both houses for leading the way in eliminating the GEA in their one-house budget proposals. So the finish line is hopefully in sight on that, but we still need to get there and ensure that we do that and make this the year that the GEA is finally gone. On top of that, we do believe that the foundation aid category and that continued phase-in will benefit many of our districts as well. So looking at that, as well as the increase in library aid, which the legislature, has always been very supportive of that area, and we look at that as a priority on the minority side. And then lastly, the special act schools, the 4201 schools, the 853 schools, we are supportive of giving them an increase, giving them some parity with the increases we're making to the general public school system, and ensuring that those schools which provide great programs for students have all the resources they need to continue the great work that they do. Thank you.
Mr. Graff, anything?
Yes, I'd like to thank the two chairs and Assemblyman Ra, the ranker for the Education Committee on our side. His leadership has been astounding on our side of the aisle. I think there are many issues facing our schools and our children. It is my hope that when we reach a final budget, we can effectively and positively deal with many of the issues facing our schools. And I see a lot of good starts here. So I'm hoping that when everybody works together, you know, we can make a great impact on our schools.
Thank you.
The reason why we didn't call on Senator Feller is he said he didn't
You sure,
require
sir?
to speak. That was his call.
You can beg me, I'm not talking.
Let me just take a minute then, that all those that wanted to speak did. First of all, to just say, I know sometimes, we've had this format now for a number of years, and sometimes people feel, well, it's scripted or everyone is polite, but that's actually a lot better than other states and localities where people are really fighting and there's gridlock. We really make an effort in this subcommittee to work together, and I think we joked about it, but I think everyone here knows the tremendous respect I have for Senator Marcelino and his commitment to education. And I do want to express my gratitude to Speaker Hasty, who has made this, Carl Hasty has made this a key priority for our Assembly majority. He has put, you know, through our wonderful and talented Ways and Means and Program and Council committees, a major emphasis on education. We're building, obviously, on the executive's proposal. This is the first time the executive in his tenure has put any money in foundation aid, and the Assembly and the Senate have both built on that. So I think that's how we try to approach this committee, as a building block. This is an immensely complicated area. There is $25 billion spent by our taxpayers to educate our young people for adult education, for the education of children with challenges. We certainly focus on our English language learners in this budget. We focus on, we do language changes, we create an Office of Non-Public Schools. There are many, many, many things that get touched on in both the Assembly and the Senate and the Executive's budget. It can all be read online if you are a good reader and you want to absorb those many numbers. So we can't talk about it all today, but I urge people to feel free to contact our conference committee with their concerns on the many issues that are dealt with. And we certainly intend to have a number of other meetings as we go forward. You know, again, any limitations are our own, but this vehicle of a conference committee does give us an opportunity to declare our priorities, and I want to thank Speaker Hasty for putting forward in the One House proposal a very substantial sum, money so big that it dwarfs our ability to understand it, but a $1.1 billion foundation aid proposal will be creating history for our youngsters, and I'm very proud to be part of the Assembly majority that does such a thing. So thank you, everybody, and yes, thank you, Senator Marcelino. I'm going to bring the yearbook in for the next meeting. And
Bring it in.
it was
Bring it
red,
in.
white, and blue for 1776.
The committee's work is going to go on behind it, obviously with staff working behind the scenes. We do not have a table target yet. We will be given that table target when we have the target that is the money that we're going to be working with here, the specific dollar amount. We'll get back to you on our next meeting. We will probably come together Monday unless there is something that comes in the way or would prevent us from meeting. We'll let you know. We'll make sure there's plenty of time and plenty of public notice. But I would like to mention that we are in this state in a very historic position. We have Mary Ellen Elia at the head of the New York State Education Department. We have Carmen Farina, the head of the New York City Education Program, and we have Nancy Zimpher, the head of SUNY University. Three very bright, three very intelligent, three very caring women who have been involved in every aspect of education. They've held every job in the system, and they've done it well, and they've excelled wherever they've been. So this is a very historic moment. I've made it my business to meet with and sit down with and talk to all of them, and we're going to continue that conversation with them, even Nancy Zimpher, because that's, you know, the college level, but and we're K-12. But we believe, since we're preparing the kids to jump to college, that we should have a communication and a line of communication with SUNY. So we're going to do that and make sure we maintain that level of contact with them. It's most important to us. But the state, I think, education-wise, we're doing well. I thank my colleagues for their energy. I thank my colleagues for their input. Sometimes our individual subcommittees meeting together, I'm sure we're loud, and I'm sure we're argued very strongly for everybody's position, because everybody cares what they're doing here. Education is our future. Our children are our future. I know you hear that all the time. I know it's been said a million times. You know the reason why it's been said a million times? Because it's true. It's true, and there's no arguing with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and we call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Thanks.
You too, man. See you tomorrow.